Okay, now that Vanessa's chosen her bow, it's time to talk about accessories. And the first thing she's going to need is a release aid. And which release aid is she going to use? First release aid I have, which is the most popular release aid, is your wrist strap index finger release aid. This is by far your most common release aid and probably the safest release aid for a beginner to start using. Basically, it attaches to Vanessa's wrist so she can't lose it. But no, so now when she's walking around the bush or around the range, a release aid's always on her hand and ready to go. But most importantly, for a beginner, this release aid offers a safety mechanism where Vanessa will put her finger behind the release aid when she's drawing the bow and when she's letting the bow down. As opposed to a handheld release aid, which I believe should be one of the last things that an archer progresses to. Issue with these things is when it's clipped onto the string, Vanessa is drawing the bow, the trigger is exposed. Clipping into the bino harness, you can make contact with the trigger and many other obstacles, branches, anything else that may be laying around. And it's as easy as clicking that off and she can draw that into her face. She can send an arrow somewhere where she doesn't want it to go. So for a beginner and an intermediate shooter, it's safer and more reliable to be shooting an index release aid. Secondly, we're going to move into, I'll take this off, we're going to move into bow accessories. So one of the first accessories we're going to look into is the sight. Here I have an example of a fixed pin sight. The fixed pin sight has 3 fixed pins, a 20, a 30 and a 40 pin, or a shooter can run those in any configuration that they like. The advantage of the fixed pin sight for the beginner shooter is Vanessa doesn't have too much to think about other than distance and which pin she's going to use. The sight is very simple, doesn't have too many adjustments or anything else that might confuse her while she's trying to organise her shot. Okay, so here I have a single pin sighter slide. This sight utilises a single pin. It's on a rail, you break it loose and you can dial in exactly whatever measurement that you like. Great for target archery, probably not so great in the bush. A lot of hunters choose to use a single pin, but the majority are using a multi-fixed pin sight.
Okay, so we've got our bow, we've got our sight. What else do we need, Dustin?
Mate, we need to move into an arrow rest.
Okay, what does that do?
All right, your arrow rest. That contains your arrow, so the arrow is able to be shot. On this particular bow, we have what we call a Whisker Biscuit. Whisker Biscuit's a great rest for a beginner shooter. It's not the best rest for an intermediate or a pro shooter as it does disrupt your accuracy. An upgrade for that, on something that we've built earlier, is your Dropaway arrow rest. As you see, this is a full containment Dropaway arrow rest. What that means is when I load my arrow into the bow, I cock the arrow rest sits in there in full containment, it can't fall out. As you're walking around, it's not rattling around within the riser, making noise or falling out of alignment for when you're ready to shoot the bow. That is a valuable upgrade on any bow and far surpasses the quality and accuracy of a Whisker Biscuit.
Okay, so earlier, Dustin, we talked about adding on a stabilizer, these parts here. Why do we need those and what are they for?
Okay, so as the word states, it's stabilisation. Stabilises the bow. Most bows will come out without the rear bar. And the rear bar is essential to set the stabilisation up. But for a demonstration, I will put the rear bar back in and we'll get Vanessa to have a feel of her new bow.
Okay.
As you'll see, the bow now balances itself. It balances itself because we have shuffled the weights around front to rear to get the bow into a neutral position. Taking away the rear bar completely destabilises the bow.
Yep.
And
sure
also takes away my ability to have any control over the bow. So by adding the rear bar, that then gives the archer the ability to manipulate her weights from the front to the rear of the bow, which will give her control over the bow this way. And she can move her adjustable sidebar left and right, which will give her control over the bow this way. Ultimately giving the archer complete control over her bow.
So Dustin, where am I going to put my arrows?
Well, you're going to need a quiver.
Okay.
This is a hunting style quiver, which mounts to the side of the bow. mostly for the bush. Enables Vanessa to get around, have quick access to her arrows, straight off the side of the bow, straight into the bow and ready to shoot. From a target standpoint, Vanessa might want to consider a hip quiver. Hip quiver will sit here, allowing Vanessa quick access to her arrows, keep the weight of her bow down, assist with her stabilisation on her bow and make things much more comfortable for her on the range.
So Dustin, we're missing one thing and it's the arrow, the important bit.
Okay mate, so arrows are pretty simple really. We're talking about a 3D hunting arrow that you're going to be using in your new bow. Really that comes down to spine, poundage and draw length. We need to check your draw length, check your poundage and find the appropriate spined arrow. In your case you're shooting approximately 42 pound, which will put you on about a 500 spined arrow, as opposed to a male bow hunter which would be shooting 70 pound, potentially 28 to 30 inches of draw at a 300 spined arrow.
So now we've got all the accessories.
It's time for a bow build. So now that we've finished Vanessa's bow build, we just need to check her poundage. Okay, so the bow's on about 34 pound, which is a good place to start for a lovely young lady like yourself.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll give you this draw tool, and never draw a bow without an arrow unless you have a proper draw tool. So I'll give you this draw tool. Make sure you don't let it go. And just tell me how that feels.
Yeah, I think that's
Looked pretty easy.
yeah.
Yeah. Feel like you could do it with a little bit more poundage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Try.
So I'm just going to add a couple of turns into the limbs to bring that poundage up. Okay, so for hunting in New South Wales, you have a poundage limit of 45 pound. So that's basically your goal. So if we can manage to build you up over the next weeks to months to 45 pound, anything above 45 pound is a bonus.
Okay.
For target, it doesn't really matter. We can shoot a lighter poundage, we can shoot a heavier poundage in target. That's not such a big deal.
Okay.
So we'll check it again. So now we're up to 42 pound. And we'll try again. If it feels like it's a little bit too much, don't worry, but if you feel you've got it, you're going up more poundage already.
Yeah, that's good.
Very good. Okay, so here we have the complete bow build. We've assembled all of our accessories and it's time to hit the range and do some sighting in.
Fantastic. Let's get out there.
From the beginner to the pro shooter, if you need help building a bow, get down to Venture, come and see me and we'll get this bow built.